A very good morning. My name is Rochelle. I'm the moderator for today's webinar on Enable Transformative Growth with Windows Server on Azure that brought to you by Novantic. So before we proceed, I'm going to have a very high level briefing of the housekeeping notes for today's session. You're encouraged to join in on listen mode only during the presentation. However, you can unmute yourself to raise your question to our speakers today during the interim or during the allocated Q&A session. Tell us how we did in the feedback form, and we value your comments so we can further improve in the future. Kindly note that this session will be recorded in order to offer to you after this webinar session for you to listen again what our speakers have presented to you today. So this will be the agendas of today. We will start with myself for having opening remarks and introduce you the company of Novantic. And we will proceed to the topics of today, where we have the pre-sales of Microsoft Azure, Isaac, to introduce you the trend of the technologies of cloud computing as of today, and as well as how Azure can offer you unparalleled value that are able to provide the utmost capabilities for your operations and infrastructures in terms of the savings and as well as security. Then we have our guest of speakers today, Jess, where to share with you our Novantic offering on the Azure Plus program. Then we'll proceed to a Q&A session before we end the session. Okay, so let's move on to the first topic of today, where I will introduce to you and how you can transform your business and why you should do that. So basically, we understand that the business needs to transform in the rapidly changing work environment. Many of us often put various stages of our digital transformation journey to migrate our database workload. So in this webinar, we will walk you through how to build, deploy, scale, and manage apps, servers, and services on Azure, the trusted cloud for Windows Server. Migrating your apps and database to cloud is much easier than you think if there are the three things that you have to keep in mind, where the cloud platform will provide you unmatched security that offers a built-in intelligent performance, protection, and compliance. Second is allow you to migrate on your own pace. So you can actually move your database to Azure or bring your existing Windows servers and SQL service licenses as well. Thirdly is it provides an unparalleled values to your organizations. So all these three checkpoints will be discussed later, whereby my colleagues Isaac and how Microsoft Azure able to offer all these requirements. And let me move on to next and how Novantic can actually assist you. So we have present over 60 countries. We are the global Microsoft partners. And our HQ is based in London, and we have over 6,000 of employees. Basically, we support all sort of languages, local languages, and providing you a very global value of expertise for your local requirements. So we not just on Microsoft, we offer the services and the solutions to our customers. We collaborate with over 100 vendors, such as like AWS, Google Cloud, Adobe, Apple hardware, Citrix, and etc. etc. And in order to further elevates our performance on Microsoft Social, how we can offer to you. Basically, we actually gain 13 advanced specialization over Azure, security, modern work, and business app, as shown on the screen. We are also an Azure Expert MSP partners, and we are a former partner of the year for Malaysia as well. So without further ado, let me welcome the next topic and also the next presenter of today to talk about the Windows Server and SQL Server on Azure. Over to you, Isaac.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. So I'll take over from here.
Right. Sorry, let me open up your. Oh, sorry, maybe Isaac, if you can may flash your PPT from your end.
Okay, sure.
Never mind, I got it. So sorry about the error. So over to you, Isaac.
All right, thanks, Rachel. Hi, everyone. Thank you for spending your time and effort to join the session today. And I'm your presenter today that I'm going to share about Windows Server and also SQL Server on Azure. My name is Isaac. I'm the Azure Cloud Pre-Sales from Novantix. And as per Rachel's introduction, we are the Microsoft partner. So from moving onwards, I'll be turning off my camera to have a better bandwidth. Yep. So we understand that actually the technology is changing in a very fast pace, and the innovation breakthroughs are actually causing the data volume to explode, be it from the data from the sensors, social media, application, and also the data found across the enterprise within our documents, Excel files, for example. And I believe that the scale and the economics of the cloud computing is making it possible to capture and harness all this data so that we can create the new and exceptional opportunities for our people and organizations to innovate, grow faster, and also achieve more than ever before. And the organization will also have the chance to redefine the way we engage with the customer, transform our products with better insights from all these technologies. Moving on to the next slide, we have also understand that the economic stability will be impacted by the disruptive events globally. So for example, how our business respond in time of uncertainties is actually vary with the business themselves. Many business will slow down the operations to operate more cost effectively during all these pandemic and also disruptive events, while the other may lean to new opportunity that may not have otherwise existed. Across this entire spectrum, we can see that the ability to cost effectively adapt and scale to the rapidly changing conditions and manage the underlying risk is paramount. That is why we have recently seen that a shift in the key drivers for cloud migration. In the past, the functional benefits of performance and manageability motivated customers to move their workloads to the cloud. And the recent disruptive event will be the COVID-19. The foundational elements of cost saving and security has been a significant factors for customers to look for efficiency and also the predictability of the cost. And most importantly, the reliability for their day-to-day operations. And actually the challenge is how we navigate all this uncertainty and then maximize our current investment. And lastly, to reinvest it for the growth. So we pose these questions after three key statistics, right? Although the COVID accelerated cloud adoption in the recent past, but there are still many challenges remain in the IT leaders' mind because the legacy IT architecture still hamper agility. So how can we modernize it to help the business growth? And based on the statistics, right, 74% of the migrated workload have plans to be modernized. However, the question is how we optimize it and to prevent the overspending. Also, 85% of the organization will embrace a cloud-first approach by 2025, which is in almost 2 years later. And how do we make the right decision to put this investment for the future? And lastly, 91% of the business leaders find that staying ahead of the attackers is a constant battle. And how do we secure our data in the cloud to protect against the threats that can affect the customer and also our company brand? And yes, Windows Server and also SQL Server on Azure can help to improve their business result. Over the last 3 years, the customer were able to achieve more than 400% of the ROI when they move their server and also
Sorry to
to,
interrupt.
yeah,
So Isaac, we are in the slide 2 only, but we can see it slide 2.
okay, hold on, yeah. Yep, are you able to see it now?
We are at slide 4.
Is it on slide 5?
Yes, we can
Or,
see slide 5.
or maybe Isaac, feel free to share your screen from your end. Okay, great. Go ahead, Isaac. All good
Yep,
right now.
Can see now, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry for the technical glitch during the presentation. Yeah, so let us continue. So Azure is actually here to help our customer to adapt and remain resilient in the world of constant change. With Azure, we can reduce the cost of running our workload and also achieve the increased operational agility at the same time. And based on the statistics and the findings that we have, we are able to lower the cost of operation by 40% and the payback within 12 months of time. And most importantly, we would like to assist our customer to reduce the effort required to provision and also secure the new infrastructure by 80%. So Forrester actually interviewed some of the customers across a broad range of industry who have been using Azure infrastructure as a service. Forrester does that with an established methodology called the total economic impact. They analyze the business income across the multiple dimensions, including the risk and flexibility factors. And so these are the statistics and the results that they have been generated over the last 3 years. So these are some of the logos that they are running their Windows Server and also SQL servers on Azure. Although many of the Fortune 500 companies and large enterprises have experienced the value of Azure, they continue to grapple with some key considerations as they determine their next step on their migration journey. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce and explain why Windows Server and SQL Server run best on Azure. And this will be the 3 key pillars and 3 factors why they run best on Azure due to the unparalleled value, unmatched security, and also cloud on your terms. And on the next slide, I'm going to give an overview on these 3 key pillars. So with Azure, customer can actually save time and reduce their cost by getting most of their value for their existing Windows Server and also SQL Server workload with the capabilities and offer that we get the best TCO. Also to protect the workloads with unmatched security, operate anywhere by getting cloud value on their terms. So the first pillar will be unparalleled value. By saving the hours of daily IT overhead by automating the management of the virtual machine with Azure Auto Manage. And we can also further increase the workload uptime and efficiency by patching without rebooting the Windows Server VM with hot patch only on Azure. And with the 5 times faster than AWS from fully managed and also secure Azure SQL by gaining the flexibility and consistency with the native .NET support in app service. And we can easily enable a secure and remote desktop experience using Azure Virtual Desktop. And all these features will be explained in the next few slides. Of course, the most important part will be cost efficiency. And we are able to save up to 85% with Azure benefits when we migrating our Windows Server and also SQL Server to Azure. On the next pillar, unmatched security, we are able to get unified security management and also advanced threat protection with Microsoft Defender for cloud and proactively secure our server workload with Microsoft Sentinel, which is a cloud-native SIEM service, by encrypting the data while in use with the industry-leading confidential computing as well. We can also trust the SQL Server platform that has been the industry leader in security for the last decade with the fewest security vulnerabilities for any leading database in the last 10 years. And the last pillar will be the cloud on your terms. By bringing the Azure security management and also governance to any infrastructure with Azure Arc, and we are able to seamlessly migrate or extend the on-premises VMware and Nutanix environment with Azure VMware solution, or modernize it with the infrastructure as a service on Azure. Next, by extending our on-premise core server roles to Azure with Windows Admin Center in Azure, Azure File Sync, Azure Active Directory, and also the extended network for Azure. And we are able to offer this program that is being initiated by Microsoft, which is known as Azure Migration and Modernization Program. So we can guide all of our customers every single step of the migration and also modernization journey. In terms of unparalleled value, we'll be talking about saving time by simplifying the management of the Windows Server workload. We understand that Azure is one of the best cloud for Windows Server for a number of reasons, such as cost, unmatched security, and seamless hybrid capabilities. So this will be one of the features that we have been talking about since the last few slides, which is the Azure Auto Manage. It can help us to simplify and also optimize the IT management by automated operation. Simplify the configuration of the virtual machine anywhere, automate operation for continuous security and management at scale, innovative capabilities for Windows Server on Azure. So we often hear from customers that maintaining and operating servers on premise is complex, and the administrators are responsible for day-to-day administration tasks such as the backup, disaster recovery, and also security updates. With growing security threats every day, they need to ensure that the application and data remain secure compound. And with Azure Auto Manage, we can actually help the customer to significantly reduce the day-to-day management tasks with the automated operation across the entire life cycle of the Windows Server virtual machines. And the admins can now manage the entire VM lifecycle with the point-and-click simplicity, individually or at scale. Azure Auto Manage works with any new or existing Windows Server VM on Azure. It actually automatically implements the VM management best practices as defined in the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure. It can also eliminate the need for service discovery, enrollment, and configuration for the VM. For instance, it enables the customer to implement the security best practices by offering an easy way to apply an operating system baseline to VM as per the Microsoft Baseline's configuration. Services such as Azure Defender are automatically onboarded as per the configuration profile chosen by the customer. If the VM configuration drifts from the apply best practices, it will detect automatically and bring the VM back to the desired configuration. So this is an example on how Azure Auto Manage for Windows Server can do. It will actually apply the security patches without the reboot to protect the VM against the critical threats by using hot patch. And it can reduce the downtime for application and also services running on Windows Server VM as well. And lastly, it will automatically enroll for the ease of server discoverability. So this slide will be shared with you, and you can actually go into this link to understand more on Azure Auto Manage for Windows Server. Yep, this is one of the clearest workload where Microsoft is differentiated by building the .NET application with fully managed app service on Azure. Because one of the most popular workload for Windows Server and SQL Server are the ASP.NET Web application. So Microsoft actually built a world-class hosting platform in Azure for .NET application, app service, and Azure SQL as well. By letting Microsoft Azure taking care of the availability, security, and also the infrastructure management, we are able to optimize our resources and spending by leveraging a platform that runs over a millions of .NET applications and trillions of SQL queries every day. There has never been a better time to migrate .NET application to the cloud with a new migration tool and also offer. When we migrate to the cloud, we are able to reduce the cost of running the applications by up to 50% versus on-prem. And the objective is to operate our application more confidently by letting Microsoft Azure to take care of the infrastructure with the fully managed services. And we are able to easily modelize the application with the native integration for Visual Studio and etc. as well. So on Windows Admin Center, it is available when we migrate our workload to Microsoft Azure, and it will be available in the Azure portal. So this will be one of the favorite and also unified server management tool available natively in the portal itself. So on this portal, we are able to manage our Azure infrastructure as a service virtual machines, which support for the VMs with private IP addresses and offer the granular management configuration, troubleshooting, and also the maintenance functionality. And the good news is it's also available for the Windows Server 2016 and 2019 virtual machine that is included with the Azure IaaS. And most importantly, it is always up to date with the newest feature and covered by the Microsoft Azure support. So talking about Azure Virtual Desktop, which is able to enable a secure remote desktop experience from anywhere. So we understand that during the past few years, throughout the period of COVID-19 hit us, when we look at the key to being successful enabling remote work, it always has to start with the employee experience. So with Azure Virtual Desktop, we are able to provide our employees with the same window experience that we know and we love and used to it. In addition, we are able to provide the Windows 10 multi-sessions, and actually this allows the customers to combine the two multiple user on a single Windows 10 virtual machine by reducing the cost. And this is an unique capability with Azure Virtual Desktop that was previously available only with Windows Server. Not only that, the user can get an optimized experience with Office 365, Microsoft Teams, and also the access to all their applications as well. For example, if you have any specialized workers such as the data scientists, graphic designers, and etc., we can actually take appropriate compute or memory optimized GPU virtual machines to serve their needs. So this meaning that our employees can do everything with Windows Azure Visual Desktop that we can do with a physical laptop or more. And the second concern will be the security. How can we ensure that the data is secure, especially when the employees are accessing the sensitive information from outside our corporate network and often from the personal devices? The first point will be with Azure Virtual Desktop. Again, we ensure that all the data is stored centrally and is encrypted. Secondly, to be fully secure, we will need to also think beyond the data security. A lot of the customer want to implement a zero trust model. When we design a system to always assume breach and use dynamic policy engines to react quickly. So to do that, we need to think holistically. From protecting our identity, the personal devices our employees are using, the network, the storage, the compute infrastructure, and of course the data. Virtual Desktop actually integrates with the Microsoft security tools that can secure each of these components and also with additional capabilities such as threat protection and SIEM that allows us to get the end-to-end visibility. And coming back to the SQL databases in Azure, we actually offer three options, which depend on the organization wants it to be the infrastructure as a services or platform as a services. And what would be the difference? Infrastructure as a service is actually a great way to start if you want to perform a basic lift and shift of existing application and databases directly into the cloud platform from SQL on premises. It is also a perfect move if we just need an OS level access. And this just runs the SQL in Azure on virtual machine. And if we want platform as a service, then we will use Azure SQL Managed Instance to modernize or Azure SQL database to build a new modern cloud application. And we can always use Azure Arc to run SQL on premises for a hybrid deployment as well. On the next slide, I'm going to talk about why Azure SQL is the best choice for SQL Server workload to run any workload anywhere on the industrial leading SQL Server engine. First thing first, Azure SQL is a fully managed and always up to date. This will actually allow us to spend more time innovating and using less time to do the patching, updating, and also backing up our databases. And Azure is the only cloud with Evergreen SQL that automatically applies the latest updates and patches. So the DB are always up to date. And this will eventually eliminate the end of support hassles. And let's say we are using the existing SQL and we would like to experience it in the cloud. We are able to build on the same SQL Server technology that we are already familiar with. So we do not need to relearn our SQL skill when we make this move. And immediately, we are able to develop the application once we use the existing SQL skills and also deploy it on any Azure SQL Cloud databases on the Azure Cloud. And next, we are able to help the customer to save with the lowest total cost of ownership by getting the industrial leading pricing while maximizing the existing on-premises investment when we migrate the SQL Server databases to Azure. By saving up to 85% by using the pay-as-you-go pricing, when we bring our existing SQL licenses to Azure with the utilization of the Azure hybrid benefits. And the next thing that we can help the customer to get more cloud for less by combining these Azure hybrid benefits with a reservation pricing as well. And lastly, we will protect the investment with the built-in intelligent security by remediating the potential threats in real time with intelligent threat detection and proactive vulnerability assessment alerts. So with the built-in security controls, we are able to get the multi-layer protection, including the TSQL authentication, networking, and also key management. And this is actually the illustration on how Azure SQL can provide a more price performance value comparing to the other service provider. So Azure SQL provides more value through the pricing performance. And the recent report from an independent research firm concluded that the following: Azure SQL database meets the mission critical requirement up to 5 times faster, while the costing is actually 93% lesser than the SQL server on AWS RDS. And the SQL server on Azure Virtual Machine has up to 42% higher transaction per second, and the cost is actually 31% lesser than the SQL server on AWS EC2. And in order to offer us to lower the TCO, Windows and SQL Server offer an outstanding upgrade capability and a streamlined migration path to Azure. For one thing, the financial incentive available through the Azure Enable modernization exercises better than those offered by the other cloud as well. And to recap, Azure Hybrid Benefits has actually allowed the user to reuse the on-premises Windows Server and SQL Server license while we move our licenses to Azure. And Azure Reservation and Saving Plan allowed the customer to save by paying upfront for long-running workload. And Saving Plan is actually allowed the customer to commit to a fixed hourly usage. Also, the dev test pricing is an offering unique to Azure, which allowed the customers to save on non-production workload with their Visual Studio subscription. And the environment is secure and the vendor management is simplified with the Defender for Cloud, with the extended security updates, which offer up to 3 additional years of critical and important security patches for Windows Server, SQL Server version 2008 or R2. With all these offers, it is possible to achieve the lowest TCO for Windows and also SQL Server running on Azure. So by combining this offer with the Azure Reserve instances, we can actually save up to 80%. And Reserve instances, in short RI, help us to optimize the cost across the predictable and variable workloads. Basically, by reserving Windows Virtual Machine on Azure for 1 year or 3 years, we can significantly reduce the TCO for even more. So here's how we can save on the Azure resources. For example, we go to Azure and start up a machine. If we include the SQL Server and also Windows Server, the total cost of the Windows Server, which includes compute, is $0.972 per hour. And the cost of the SQL Server is $3. So the total is only $3.972 per hour. And if we use the Azure Hybrid Benefits that stems from the software assurance that we already have or from an existing subscription, that $3 per hour for SQL Server for a VM is eliminated. And the Windows Server part of the VM cost is also eliminated. So the total drop from almost $4 per hour is down to under 60 cents per hour for the resource. With this, we significantly achieve 85% saving over the standard pay-as-you-go rate. And by right-sizing and optimizing the cost with the Azure cost management, the customer can now manage their cloud spend in an unified experience, and also to leverage the built-in best practices recommendation. For example, by turning off the unused VM to drive operation efficiency. So Azure Spot VM can give the customer access to spare the Azure compute capacity at a deep discount to run the workload, which are non-time critical and can handle interruption, batch processing jobs, and also the dev test environment. Yeah, moving on to the second pillar, it will be the unmatched security. So in order to secure the cloud environment, and we understand that it is very critical than ever. So when we develop and also operate the application in cloud, we want to make sure that it is secure. And more than 54% of the enterprises do not actually integrate the security into the DevOps pipeline. And the next thing, we would like to have the visibility into the security and also compliance of our cloud environment. 86% of the survey security decision makers believe their cybersecurity strategy doesn't keep up to their multi-cloud environment as well. So importantly, we need to protect against an increasing and also sophisticated attacks. In the year of 2021, the average cost of a breach is about 4.24 million. So next slide, I'm going to talk about the comprehensive and also the multi-layer security from Azure services with the built-in feature for Windows Server and workload. So customer can actually get the broadest built-in protection available across both cloud and on-premise through the Microsoft Defender for Cloud. This includes the security recommendation for the virtual machine, storage, network, databases, identity, application services, and also the IoT, all from a single integrated dashboard only. And the next services will be the Microsoft Sentinel, which make it easy to collect security data across an entire hybrid organization from devices, user application, and also any cloud. It actually uses the power of AI to ensure all the real threats are identified quickly and unleashes the customer from the burden of traditional SIEM by eliminating the need to spend more time. So this will be the other services that offer in Microsoft Azure to protect the Windows Server workloads. And Microsoft Defender for Cloud is actually the native security built in Azure cloud environment, which is tailored to identify and also to strengthen the configuration of the critical resources. Yep. To secure the application with the built-in protection in Windows Server virtual machine and also the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, this is how we combine these to offer the best-in-class security. And we are able to simplify the SIEM with Microsoft Sentinel because it is the reimagined SIEM and SOAR tool by providing intelligent security analytics at a cloud scale for the entire enterprise. Because it is built on Microsoft Azure, it offers the limitless cloud scale and speed. It will also scale automatically to address the customer need. Azure Network Security offers the full benefit of cloud-native services for securing the cloud and hybrid network infrastructure and application. Based on the Zero Trust Network Security, these services are designed to provide the organization with segmentation controls, intelligent threat protection by the Microsoft Threat Intelligence, traffic encryption in transit or at rest, and private access linking to the IaaS, PaaS, or the on-premise resources as well. Unlike the partner solution that run on network virtual appliances, Azure Network Security services are cloud-native built to maximize the agility by providing auto-scaling, high availability, and also the tight integration with the DevOps and Azure services. So from the diagram, it will be the services that we use to provide the Azure Network Security. Moving on next, we are also looking into the advanced data security for this SQL server that runs on the Azure VM. So Azure Advanced Threat Protection detects the anonymous activities indicating the unusual and potentially harmful attempts to access to our databases. It will continuously monitor the DB for suspicious activities and provide the immediate security alerts on any potential vulnerabilities. Where the next services will be the vulnerability assessment, is an easy to configure services that can discover, track, and remediate the potential database vulnerabilities. It provides the visibility into our security state and includes the actionable steps to resolve the security issues and enhance the DB fortification. Lastly, data discovery and classification provides the capability that built into the Azure SQL database, Azure SQL managed instance, and for discovering, classifying, labeling, and also reports the sensitive data in our database. It can also be used to provide the visibility into our DB classification state and use it to track the access to sensitive data within the database and beyond its borders. And to increase the efficiency of our IT admin, the automated security patching established a maintenance window for an Azure VM that running the SQL server. Automated updates can only be installed during this maintenance window. So rest easy with automated security patches. It will automatically apply to the SQL server on Azure VM. Yep, here's a look at the deadline ahead. The deadline includes the end of extended support for SQL Server 2012 and also Windows Server 2012 because the database is often tied to one or more applications running on the Windows Server. It makes sense to look at both as we build our end of support plan. We can continue to use the Windows Server 2012 safely in our environment architecture at least until the extended support expiration date. As we all may know, Microsoft actually backs each server version with a minimum of 10 years support, which inclusive of 5 years of mainstream support and 5 years of extended support that include the regular security updates. So many customers actually went through the end of support exercise when Microsoft ended its support for the 2008 server version. Here is what happened then. Many of the customers moved their Windows Server and SQL Server 2008 workloads to Azure virtual machines. By doing that, Microsoft will provide the free extended security updates for those workloads in Azure VM. With this, the other customer also upgraded their on-premise to Windows Server 2022 and the latest SQL Server. So customers are actually realizing a significant saving by taking advantage of the unique offer like free extended security updates only available in Azure. So for all the Azure customers, this will be the key actions. To turn on the Azure Secure Score. Azure Secure Score gives us a numeric view for our security posture. If we get 100%, then we are following all the known best practices for Azure security. However, if we have less than 100%, then we will need to assign someone or get the partner support to address the highest prioritized recommendation first. Next thing will be to turn on the Azure Microsoft Defender for Cloud for all the cloud workload, including the services, storage, and also SQL, so that we constantly monitor for evolving threats. Because the Defender protects against threats like remote desktop protocol, brute force control, SQL injection, and also the attacks on storage account. The third key action may be to turn on the web application firewall and DDoS protection for every website. So this is to ensure that the web applications are protected from the attacks and also the common web vulnerabilities. Lastly, to turn on the Azure firewall for all the subscription in Azure portal to protect the Azure virtual network. Yeah, so with Azure App, we are creating a bridge between Microsoft Azure Cloud and also all the other environments such as on-premise, multi-cloud, and also the edge to bring all this great innovation all together. Because we are doing it in a way where the customer can confidently invest in a single set of skills and processes that we can transfer anywhere when it is needed. So by using Azure Arc Enable Server, we are able to bring the Azure capability to on-premise and also multi-cloud server with Azure Arc. So if we are making a decision on the migration based on our needs, so this will be the workflow where the operational data workloads, can it be go to Azure? Is it a yes or no? So this will be the steps when we are making the decision on migrating based on the needs. And with Windows Admin Center, it is actually a locally deployed browser-based application that we use to manage the server clusters and also hyper-converged infrastructure and the Windows 10 PC. It comes at no additional cost beyond Windows and it is ready to be used in production. It is a very simple and lightweight, making the management task a breeze. It can be installed in under 5 minutes and immediately used to manage the server in the environment as well. And the other service that is available in Microsoft Azure portal, it will be the Azure Monitor, which it can provide the full stack observability across the hybrid environment as well. It is used to detect and diagnose the issue across the application and dependency with the application inside, and then call related issues at the infra level with the insights for VM, containers, SQL, and network. Further down, to drill down with the log analytics for troubleshooting and deeper diagnostics. Lastly, it can also create the visualization with Azure Dashboard and workload as well. Yep. So this will be the methodology when we move our workload to Microsoft Azure. This is actually based on the best practices that we have been practicing for all our clients with a proven methodology. So for further info, we can actually go to Microsoft Web to look into this framework on how it works due to time constraint. Yep. And this will be the parts that I would like to emphasize on, where Microsoft actually offer this Azure migration and modernization program. So with this program, we can actually assist our customer to simplify the journey to the cloud. Wherever the customer is in the journey to the cloud, this program can actually accelerate the progress, as the partner will offer the proactive guidance and the right mixture of the expert help at every stage on the migration journey. So the pillars will be talking about the flexibility to meet your needs and also to optimize the cost to meet your budget. And most importantly, to provide the hands-on technical assistance with high confidence. So in order to maximize and also to lower the migration cost, this will be the three services and methodology that we use to guide our customer to migrate their workload to the cloud. And the benefits for running the application on the cloud is that the Azure virtual machine can scale easily to help us create and manage a group of identical and load balanced virtual machines. And it is also built on high availability and also application resiliency by deploying the VM in availability zone to increase uptime. With a simplified and also centralized management configuration and update of the large set of virtual machines. And Azure SQL is fully compatible SQL option for all the existing databases. Whether to migrate it from on-premise to IaaS or PaaS, or even moving from IaaS to PaaS. And the goal is actually to bringing all this workload to Microsoft Azure. Azure SQL is the name of the family for SQL cloud databases that provides the flexible options for application migration, modernization, and also development. Azure SQL actually optimizes the performance and security on behalf with the features supported by the built-in AI. It is built upon the same SQL Server engine that we are familiar with, that we already talked in the previous slides. So this can actually help us to maximize the skill sets when we transfer the workload to the cloud. Yep, and not to forget, the business continuity to run the mission critical workloads is very important. So here we are actually utilizing the Azure backup, Azure site recovery, and also to enable high availability. The overview of the backup and disaster recovery strategy is that Azure offers built-in backup and disaster recovery solutions that are easy to deploy, cost-effective, secure, and scalable. So how are we going to save costs using the BZDR? With Azure, it is easy to scale based on the backup storage. The users are able to reduce the cost of deploying, monitoring, patching, and scaling on-premises DR infrastructure by not having to build or maintain a costly secondary data center. If the storage needs fluctuate, simply add or remove the managed resources through the Azure portal. And it actually also eliminate the need of managed backup resources and to use the flexible policies to optimize the backup storage. And the high availability will be providing the SLA of 99.9% for isolated VM failure, SLA of 99.95% for the hardware failure, and 99.99% for the entire DC failure. And the RTO is 30 minutes in the entire region failure. So the free HA and DR for SQL Server on Azure VM when we have the existing software assurance. SQL Server brings intelligent performance, availability, and security to Windows, Linux, and container, and it can tackle any data workload from BI to AI, from online transaction processing to data warehousing. We can get the mission critical high availability and DR features that allow us to implement various topology to meet the business SLA. A customer with SQL Server licenses with software assurance has historically benefited from a free passive instance of SQL Server for their HA configuration. Every software assurance customer of SQL Server is able to use the 3 enhanced benefits. And the first one will be the failover servers for HA. It allows the customer to install and run passive SQL Server instances in a separate OS environment or server for HA on-premise in anticipation of a failover event. Secondly, failover server for DR. It allows the customer to install and run passive SQL Server instances in a separate OSE or server on-premises for DR in anticipation of the failover event as well. Yep, and we offer the enterprise grade of support that is first class and also first party support. So we are able to get this support from one place when the technical guidance is needed, not only specifically for one workload, but for the all-up solution and integration point to the others. So to get started, this will be the 4 steps that we use is to migrate by lift and shift the applications to Azure and leverage the SQL VM. Or the second option is to modernize with the Azure Web Application and Azure SQL DB along with the bundle. And the third option will be building the cloud native services using Windows containers and Azure services. And lastly, to secure the environment by the built-in and seamless integration across the environment. Yep, to define the migration journey, we will be utilizing the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure as well. And this is a high-level overview of the migration journey. And yes, in order to start, we'll be assessing the IT environment using the Azure Migrate. And for now, we're actually bringing the good news to you where we actually provide the free of charge assessment based on the certain criteria. And if you're interested, you can reach out to us. So once the assessment is done, we'll be assist the customer by selecting the right tools and services for the database. And yep, coming to almost end of my presentation, this is also one of the global customer, which is the Alaska Airline. They make their shopping easier with a faster flow of the new e-commerce feature. So the reference link can also be found. And next, it will be the And our block delivers a scalable and also the multi-channel text preparation services, where they utilize the Azure and also Microsoft SQL Server 2017. They wanted to unify its disparate data sources so the company could deliver more seamless multi-channel experience and provide better service for their customers. By moving their SQL Server and Azure to Microsoft Azure using the data services, the text provider has been able to enhance the service delivery and scale easily to meet its peaks at the demand. Yep. So to discover more on moving the Windows Server and SQL Server to Azure, engage us today so we can offer you the free assessment report for your organization and quickly strategize on how do we move our cloud with a cost optimization and also improve our efficiency. Yep. Without further ado, I'll hand it over back to you, Rachel. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Isaac. But I think we have a question that is posted on the chat regarding moving the file server to Azure. Or maybe Lim, you can unmute yourself if you would like to ask the question. So basically, Lim posted that he actually not sure that whether it's better to move the SharePoint or Azure Go and to allow the sales team to access file without VPN. There's something across this line.
Yep, sure. Sanjay, would you be able to assist to answer this question? Where Lim actually have a question about decision to move their file server to Azure. Is it better to move it to the SharePoint or Microsoft Azure because the sales team is accessing the file without any VPN?
Okay, so Azure file share as well give you the access without VPN, but for that at Azure file share level, we have to whitelist the IP, so that you don't need to have a VPN. So that is the one option. But now again, the file share, on-prem file share and the Azure file, on-prem file server and the Azure file share. So typically both the scenario or the behind the techno, the kind of work, right? It is actually same. So it depends like the kind of accessibility and the size of the files, right? So based on that can be plan like SharePoint or Azure. But Azure, like how it works, like Azure file share, when you create a share, you get a 5 TB of share, which can be integrated with a Active Directory. So whoever user want to access that, now we have to whitelist the the either range of the IP or a particular IP in the Azure file share, and then the user can attach the share into their machine by using the script which will be generated in the file share. So you just run on that share on your laptop, then you can see as a drive in your end device wherever you are mounting. Okay, so the way without VPN, that's something we have to whitelist the IP of on-prem whichever device they want to attach.
Hi, Sanjay. This is Emmanuel. That was my question. I used the wrong account to log in. So let me put a bit more clarity on what we're asking. I have about 20 field staff. They're all on iPads. What we have now is we have some files on OneDrive, some on the company server, and they are finding it that VPN is not very stable. Sometimes it works, some days it doesn't work. So I was trying to solve their issue of they are using iPads. Their IP address will change every single time they connect because they are on mobile network. Their telco gives them dynamic IPs. I can't control that. So I'm trying to see, is it better to move the file server to a SharePoint? Will that solve my problem? Or do I have to move the whole file server into Azure? I don't actually need the on-premise file server. I can configure my firewall here that any office people trying to access a file server will be redirected to Azure or SharePoint, whichever is solves the problem. We will just go with that.
Okay, so your end device is the iPad, right? You said. I mean,
Yes,
how
that's right.
the
Yeah,
okay.
the guys only have iPads. Some of them don't even want to use iPads. They want to use iPhones. I'm not going to support that. So it's going to be iPads only.
Okay. Yeah. So mobile device, it's like we never. I mean, we didn't test it on the mobile device how to access the file shares, but it's something we access typically onto the the device like your end device like servers or maybe the laptops or like right wherever you want to mount. So it's typically like you need to run some script where it will go and connect to the storage. I mean the file share. So on iTab, I believe if that option is available, then just need to execute the script where the the share will be go and mount. Okay, so that is the
Yeah,
way
so
something
that's
for
clear. Yeah,
file
yeah.
share
Okay.
side we have to
So
do. Yeah.
it doesn't matter. I can use either one, is it? I can use
Yes.
SharePoint
Yes.
or I can use Azure.
Yes.
It's the
Either
same
way you
thing.
can use.
All right,
Either of the one you can
that's
use.
great. Thank you. That's very clear. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thanks for the question. Basically, Sanjay is our cloud solution architect, and he's here to assist you for any technical questions that you have. So without further ado, actually, we still have more offerings that will be shared later besides the free assessment that Isaac just mentioned. So I would like to invite our next speaker of today, which is Jess, the CEO of G7 CR Technologies, a Novantix company. Over to you, Jess. Thank you. You may take
Thanks.
control to control the slides. Thank you.
Sure. Great. Awesome. Good morning. Thank you all for joining this session. And Isaac, thank you very much for covering all the benefits of Azure really nicely, starting from just from all the services available, scalability, security, monitoring. So you pretty much covered everything that customers can do today on Azure. So in the next 10 minutes, I want to spend with all of you to talk about Azure is great and you can do all of those wonderful things. And like Emmanuel's question, there are a lot of times it's difficult for you to navigate the whole cloud ecosystem, figuring out what solution makes more sense to me, cost effective, scalable, it's easy to access. And that's where we are introducing something called Noventic Plus program, which is uniquely designed for businesses that are looking to explore Azure. And now what we intend to do is, Sinoventic has invested a lot of dollars in building competency on Azure, including acquiring companies like ourselves. And we don't want our customers to invest in building those capabilities, and we want to guide you through the entire process and the journey of cloud that you're ready to take or want to take and want to know if it's the right thing to do, and we can do that end to end for you. Now, what does Noventech Plus include? Noventech Plus, like the name suggests, it's a lot more than Azure, not just about cloud computing. We help you with the end-to-end journey. That's why we call it the Plus program. And what you get is services starting from advisory to implementation. And once you are on Azure, we also help you manage the entire deployment on Azure. And now all this comes to you at absolutely no cost. We'll talk about how we do that investments for you. But before I jump into how the investments are going to come, I want to cover the benefits of the program itself. Like you can see, this is a very nice summary slide that covers the entire journey. We begin with an assessment, right? Or we call it the advisory services. This is where you have certain business problems or technical problems that you have currently, or you are or you want to optimize some of the things that you're doing today. That's where we bring in the architects like Sanjay and a lot of other solution architects in different areas on Azure. And we do the advisory services. And once the advisory is complete, then you say, okay, this is great. Now I want to implement, or I want to migrate my Windows SQL workload to Azure. Then we help you do that by taking Microsoft's help in through the AMP program. And once you're there on cloud, we also help you manage it. It can be from patching standpoint, you want to do set up DR and you want us to manage your disaster recovery drills. You want us to do security assessments. All that is pretty much covered in the managed services. And we're going one step ahead, and also are including benefits like business enablement. And now what this means is if you want to do an ISO or an ISMS audit, right? There is a lot of documentation that goes in and you need a lot of process checks. So we've actually set up a business enablement desk which can help you and guide you through the entire process. So we're going a one step forward apart from just the technical benefits. So these are all the benefits that you'll get from Noventech Plus program. In terms of the managed services, like you can see on the slide here, you get access to 24/7 Azure support desk. So you can request for any kind of support. It can be break fix or non-break fix support. And also all the tech services. Like once you move to cloud, you have the opportunity to constantly reduce your cost because that's the beauty of cloud, right? You just pay for what you use. There are new services, there are new type of hardware. And as new hardwares come, the cost of the compute also continues to decrease. So constantly helping you optimize that cost is something that we will help you do once you're on Azure. And security assessment, we all know security is of paramount of importance. While we are all trying to protect our workloads, there are a lot of people trying to hack into it. So we also help you with constantly monitoring your cloud deployments to ensure you meet the recommended benchmark. While Isaac covered how there are tools right today on cloud where you don't have to put in a lot of upfront investments and dollars to purchase these security products. They all come to you on a pay-as-you-go usage model that makes it very, very cost effective. In addition to that, it gives you access to the industry benchmark, like the best guidelines. For example, Azure has something called Azure Security Benchmark. This is a combination of CIS and NIS guidelines for security. So it pretty much covers everything that you need in order to keep your environment secure. So we'll help you assess where you stand. We'll help you identify gaps. And once the gaps are identified, we'll also help you mitigate those gaps. So you can just consider us as your extended team who are who are available for doing anything that you need on Azure per se. And of course, disaster recovery drills. Once we've set up DR, which Isaac again covered on the RPO, RTO, and how easy it is to set up, and it's also cost effective. You don't have to keep your servers running. In fact, Azure there is something called disaster recovery services or site recovery services. You only pay for the storage because it does a block level copying of your data to another data center. So it gives you the redundancy that is required to plan your business continuity, right? And of course, architectural review. Because there are so many ways you can actually host on Azure. It can be an infrastructure as a service, or you can also do platform as a service. So what is the right thing to do? A right choice in terms of cost, performance, availability. So we also do architectural reviews continuously, and because every day there are at least 4 or 5 updates that happens on the cloud and new services being launched. So we help you stay current on cloud as well, so you take the maximum benefit of it. And patch updates, of course, though there is um, automated way of updating, but we also do the entire process for you. So it's more of a managed services offering per se. Now, how does this whole thing work? Is Once Noventic Plus is a program that we are running, since you're all on this workshop, you're all eligible for it. You can apply for it. You can fill out the forms that are in the chat window. And once you're ready to onboard, what we do is uh, we give you something called service points, which are equivalent to cash points. Because I'm saying we'll do all of these, and these are the benefits of the program. The What we intend to do as an organization is give you everything that we are committed, and it's not just on the workshop, but actually through a platform. So everything is automated for you. So we have a platform called Noventech Plus. As soon as you onboarded to the program, you get access to that platform. You can log in, and all the services and the program benefits that I spoke about is just available to you on that portal. All you have to do is just raise a ticket for whatever service that is that you need, and there is an SLA for every single type of service request, and there are going to be expert engineers who will work with you to ensure the activity is complete. Now, the way we load these service points or cash points into your account or the Noventech Plus account is two ways. One is front loaded. The moment you're onboarded to the program, we front load points so you can start consuming it immediately and take any of the benefits that is needed. And every month, as you consume cloud, because it's on a monthly billing, on whatever you use for the month is what you get billed the following month. Based on that consumption, you continue to earn these points every month. And you can accumulate these points and do activities whenever you need them. They don't expire. They just keep rolling. It's just that we don't let you cash out the points, but otherwise you can just use the points anytime you need the service. So that's how uh, it works. And this is a limited period offer. We want to work with pilot customers. So we are open right now for 100 nomination, and we're closing the nomination on the 31st of December. So we request you to onboard and apply to the program as soon as possible.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you so much. So basically, as Jess mentioned, this is on the limited time only. So based on the first come first come first serve of applications to sign up on our Novantic Plus program. Thank you, Jess. So let me move on to the next offering that is non-Microsoft related, a very high level I would like to share with you. Give me a second. I'm going to share my screen. So basically, this is what I'm talking about, which is the Microsoft 365, our CSP offering that covers 5 areas, from the onboarding services to local applications on Power Platform, as well as security services, providing you setting up a modern intranet, as well as miscellaneous such as virtual assistant solution on Azure. And as sign up to our Novantic subscription service. I will be sharing the EDM via email later regarding this Microsoft 365 offerings. And I will touch a little bit about our Novantic subscription services, where is basically it's a B2B e-commerce channel for our customers that you can enjoy all these features like 24/7 to manage your subscription online. You were able to deactivate or activate new services. So you can enjoy as well free trial licenses coming from us. And the pricing is based on hourly or daily consumption. So we do provide like analytics report for you to review on your consumption or spending. And if there's any subscription that is nearly to expiry, there will be automatic reminders. So you can go on to our Novantic Markets or maybe Novantic subscription service platform. This is how it looks like. You can find all sort of Microsoft solutions and licenses that is including Azure. Then you can, once you sign up as our subscribers, you can enjoy all those features that I just mentioned. Okay, great. Let me move on to the Q&A session. So feel free to scan this QR code and raise up your question. You can also unmute yourself to ask question to our speakers, Jazz, or specialist Sanjay or Isaac, that is related to Windows Server or even about our offerings. Let me have a look. Basically, we are using this Mentimeter where everyone can place questions anonymously. So there's one question where it sounds like, in what ways does Azure simplify the management and maintenance of Windows Server instances compared to traditional on-premises setup? Or maybe I will have this question divert to Sanjay.
Yeah. Just let me read the question.
Sure.
Okay, so it's if it is like the maintenance, right? So Azure Azure has options like automatic patch management, and it's like you don't need to take care of, or you don't need to worry on your side, where you just need to onboard into the patch management, where the regular base it can be verify the latest patch, and it can apply the patches seamlessly, right, without the human intervention. So this is one example where patch management you can do, and the monitoring, right? So you can configure the monitoring in a like in Azure, like we have Azure monitoring, where you can monitor your activity log on your server level, or even the performance of your matrices, right? So you can monitor, you can audit those logs, right? So these are some kind of features where you can get in the Azure when you are deploying your Windows, and as well as there is like any any threats or any security breaches. So there are audit logs, right? It reports like what are the threats or any vulnerabilities, right? So like using Microsoft Defender, or the anti-malware protections, or Sentinel. Like these are the inbuilt security features where it can be help on protecting your VM, where all this cannot be possible in the on-prem.
Thank you. Thanks, Sanjay. Let's move on to the next question. So basically, this is about Novantic Plus. Is there an expiry for the credits that we accumulated through the Novantic Plus program? This question, let me address it to Jess.
Yes, there is no expiration. The credits will remain in your account and you can use it anytime you want. And it'll keep rolling on. Every month you earn credits. So simple, straightforward answer, no, it does not expire. It'll continue to stay in your Novantic Plus account.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next question. If my company has a hybrid cloud infrastructure and is partially on Azure, are we entitled to the Novantic Plus program?
Yes, absolutely. You are entitled to Novantic Plus program. However, the benefits that you will earn and the points that you will earn every month is based on whatever is currently running on Azure, right? And if you are using services like HCI and Azure Arc services to manage your on-prem setup through Azure, because that's something that you can do, then you will earn points even for Azure Arc services.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jess. Well, I think that's all the questions for today's session. Thank you so much for raising up the questions and your inquiry. I hope all are answered correctly. But feel free to also reach out to us by scanning this QR code. If you want to find out more about the offerings about the free assessment that Isaac has just mentioned, as well as this Novantic Plus program, if you want to sign up and become part of the customers to enjoy all these free benefits, and as well as the Microsoft 365. There's a side of Azure topics that we're talking about, where I'll be sending the details EDM to you as well. So scan this QR code, reach out to us, even if you would like to comment about the overall the sessions that you have gone through today and how we can improve in the nearly future, or any topics you would like to hear from us. Feel free to scan this QR code and drop your comments. Well, I think that's about it for today. Thank you so much. I think we ended at the dot, and I'm giving you back a couple of minutes. Thank you so much for spending time with us for 1.5 hours, and we'd like to see you in the next upcoming Novantix event. Always follow us on LinkedIn, then you can find out and the latest EDM, latest event invitation from us. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.